We're good to go.
Yep, we'll call roll.
Okay, Belcarelli.
Present.
Lasky.
Here.
Shireman. Here. Hutchinson.
Here.
Panic. Here. Belcher.
Here.
Mugrower.
Here.
Quorum. We have quorum.
Sorry.
No, that's fine.
First thing on the agenda is election of officers. So I did go back, I did find in the original creating document back in 2003.
Nice.
So election of officers, typically we have the chair and a vice chair. The way the rule states is if the mayor, I'll just read it. Whenever the mayor shall serve as a commissioner of this authority, he or she shall act as the chairman. Otherwise, the chair of the authority shall be elected from among the commissioners of said authority. So basically, if the mayor is here, the mayor is the chair, and then so in this case, we would just need to elect a vice chair
Nice.
for the next term. So we'll open up nominations. This is you throw out a name, no second needed. I'll call them 3 times, and then we'll close nominations. And if there's only one name, we'll see if they accept. If there's more, then we'll have a vote where you tell us who you want.
Are you open to questions?
Go ahead.
Or
We can.
yeah. Has there been previous, or who's the current vice chair and who?
Tom Belter.
Oh,
Mr.
okay.
Belter's the vice chair.
And was there anyone prior to being the vice chair that's on the?
I don't know who the.
Does anybody remember?
I was chairman for a few years when we didn't have a mayor candidate, so then I went from there to vice chair. When I was chairman, I don't think we had a vice chair.
I don't think we had a vice chair.
I don't remember.
Okay. And you still want to continue on?
I don't know, I've been nominated.
Okay.
I'd like to nominate Tom Belter.
Okay.
Hold on. I'm going to open up nominations. First call, Mr.
I'd like to nominate Tom Belter.
I'm going to beat him.
Any other nominations? Any other nominations? Having called it 3 times, we'll consider it closed. Mr. Belter, would you care to accept if...
What's the pay?
to be determined.
Same as the last 5 years.
It may be less than the last 5 years.
Excellent.
What we'll do is we'll, given that there's only one, we can take a voice vote. All in favor of Mr. Belter as vice chair, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Jason's
Congratulations.
getting nominated next time.
Right along, approval of the May 21st, 2025 meeting minutes. Take a motion in a second, please.
Still moved.
Second.
Any discussion on those? If you'll take the roll on approving of the minutes.
All right, Belcarelli.
Aye.
Lasky.
Aye.
Shireman.
Aye.
Hutchison.
Aye.
Panic.
Aye.
Belcher.
Aye.
Mugrower.
Aye.
Item carried.
Resolution 25-04, accept stormwater easements located northeast of East 9th Avenue from the city of Oshkosh.
Move approval?
Second.
We have discussion on those and/or if
We
you'd
have
like to-
Casey here from Engineering and Stormwater to explain if you guys have any questions or comments, but it's really just cleanup from the Mill on Main development.
If you want, so,
Quick, give us a brief.
quick through here, so there's, I don't know if you have the map, but the other one as well, so those highlighted ones was kind of help clarify things here, so the 2 yellow easements going to the northeast, those cross the Mill on Main development through the Parks property there, so those discharge the storm sewer on site to the river there, so those give access and rights to discharge from private property through Parks property to the river there. And then the additional easement that is down on now what is vacated 8th Avenue is more of a cleanup between individual private properties. The lots are split into multiple properties there, so that just allows drainage from one private property to another to allow them to continue in the event that they do sell off later on down the line. So that's all those easements are there for. So it's or cross drainage between private properties.
25-04 is the 2 easements along the Riverwalk. 25-05 is the easement cross drainage that's located along the 8th and 9th Ave. So it's 2 different resolutions for 2 different items, but they're all for the same project.
Okay.
So we're voting on which resolution now?
04.
04, okay.
Any other questions on this one? Not, we'll take the roll on 2504.
Val Crowley.
Aye. Or approved.
Lasky.
Aye.
Shireman.
Aye.
Hutchinson.
Aye.
Panic.
Aye.
Belcher.
Aye.
McGraw.
Aye.
Item carried.
Resolution 25-05, declaration of stormwater drainage easement between parcel numbers 903-013, 903-00, and 903-01550-400. This is the mill on Main development. Motion and a second, please.
Motion.
Second?
Any questions on that one other than what was just described?
Is that a complicated lot? With all those, in many ways, we move lot lines around and bought land and sold land, I mean,
Yeah, and I believe the primary purpose though is so that the contaminated soils on site could be developed from the city's aspect, so it could be sold, so they didn't have to take the contaminated soils off site. So that was the main purpose of that.
so just a cleanup of the.
Yep,
the
pretty
whole
much.
parcel.
That's-
Because there were like 5 triangles in there that all had to be.
Yep. It's an,
Moved around with, so.
It's a large development.
Right.
It had a lot encompassing it, and we're very excited.
It looks really
How
nice.
it's going. Yep.
Really nice.
Yep. So this is just a little cleanup.
Good. All right, I don't see anything else. Take the roll on 2505.
Val Crowley.
Aye.
Lasky.
Aye.
Shireman. Hutchinson.
Aye.
Panic.
Aye.
Belcher.
Aye.
McGraw.
Aye.
Item carried.
Moving right along, Resolution 25-06, this is approved housing specifications for Redevelopment Authority infill lots.
Feel free to leave if you need to.
Okay, Motion and a
Okay.
second first to put on the floor.
Go ahead.
Motion.
Second.
Thank you.
Well, this was your guys' request per our previous meeting that we had. We're looking at developing our vacant RDA lots, and this would be the next step. We had the housing survey that was done, the study that was done, we created the housing book that listed a lot of specifications, ideas for infill lots. This is that next step. We went as far above and beyond as you could in terms of what that could look like. This is, keep in mind, what we took it from was a variety of other housing authorities. That was a 40 to 50 page document that we've went through with staff, tried to pare it down as much as we could that we thought was feasible for our developments. Most of it, we suspect contractors would already do on the lots. It's just putting it in writing. But the cover page is kind of the bread and butter of it. We know that we want certain things met with our infill lots, and that would be a basement. I just put in that it should be at least minimum half of the square footage of the first floor, because it can be costly, and knowing that some developers in our community are not comfortable putting in basements, we didn't want it to be a deal breaker for them. We also wanted the garage to match the garages in that neighborhood aesthetic. If it's detached, like all the other homes, we want this one to be detached. If it is attached, we want it to be attached. So kind of finding the language that basically says, try to get the home to match the feel of the neighborhood was important. And then, of course, the requirement to still meet all of our planning and building zoning code requirements is important. We want to make sure that we're setting that standard. But the idea was, if we have a developer interested in one of our infill lots, we wanted to set a very base standard of what we expected that home to be built at, so that we're not seeing such a varying degree between the developers purchasing the lots. Because we did hear a lot of concerns that have been expressed in the past as to, you aren't sure what you're going to get until you know the developer that's buying the lot. This sets the standard. And the idea is also that this standard could potentially be used by the city as we develop our other housing developments within the community. We would want a base standard met with our Washington, Farmington, any other potential housing developments we have going within our community that our city maintained, managed. We can go through it line by line. It's a lot. What we try to get it ahead of to you as much as time as we could. Keep in mind, again, a lot of it is very specific, but we did have our planning staff, our inspector staff, we had a couple contractors take a look at it. They felt all of it was feasible. It's really just what you're comfortable with. We could keep it to the first page with intentions, or we can include all of the specs with it too. My heart is not going to be broken if you decide to take out those pages. It's a lot to add on to any sort of agreement or arrangement, but also it is good protection for the city with our info lots, so. Good piece.
Just a
ahead.
question on, you said you talked about contractors or builders?
Yes.
Typically, they don't like to see 13-page document
They
requirements
do not.
before they do their planning, so they're all fine with this?
Fine is an operative word. I would say, I had them look at the specs and say, is anything crazy? Is anything standing out to you as like, whoa, we would never do this on a development? Or if we saw this, we'd be like, no, this is a dead deal for us. They did not flag any of that. They're like, no, most of this is fairly standard. They've seen it before in Green Bay for NeighborWorks, Habitat. These are kind of the standards that are set with those types of housing developments. Is this something new for us? Yes, absolutely.
And it's not
So.
code, but if somebody didn't do parts of this, would you still say okay, or have somebody approve it?
Well, that's why I put in a little caveat that says the RDA reserves the right for staff discretion in the implementation of these housing specs, because we do have some really weird lots that are infill lots, so we need a little flexibility to
The
say.
train tracks screwed up a lot of
Yeah, exactly. We need a little flexibility within there. We want the main idea of it to be met, but we recognize that we may have to flex things a little bit to make things work with some of the lots, which is why we built in a little language for that. And I will say, there actually are a couple of code-specific things in here, which is why I had our inspection staff look at it. And we did always reference per UDC or any building code, we said, make sure that you're meeting it. Sometimes it would just set a standard, a recommendation, and say, or something similar to it. So there's still some flexibility built in it as well.
Thank you.
Okay, so, the standard book the book that we have of all the homes, the style, what do you call that, style book?
Housing book, I'm going to call it the Oshkosh Housing Book.
Do they meet these standards?
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
that's the first question. And second question is, what's the ability to revise this as needed? I mean, if you get to a
Anytime
point
we
where you're
want.
saying, well, this one really doesn't make sense and everyone's having a problem with it, you have to keep coming back to us to have it revised then?
That was going to be my second question to you all. Do you want us to have the ability to make some minor edits as needed if something consistently comes up? Otherwise, we meet every 2 months. We're not getting that many offers to purchase on our properties, so we could just bring them back as things come up. We could do a yearly review, which is what I would suggest anyways, or we could always bring up something faster if we see it come up often. But that's part of the reason why I built in the staff discretion line,
Right.
that if something's immediately flagging for us, we want the ability to say, okay, we're willing to let this part go as long as you're meeting the other 99% of the requirements.
And are these guidelines, or?
That is something I'm leaving up to the RDA to decide. Do you want us to go in and inspect and check every single thing off? Are you okay with the spirit of it being met? Would you prefer to leave that up to staff to decide? That is where I'm leaving it at the table.
Couple comments. One is, I've heard that there's been animosity or maybe at times developer disagreement with how the city addresses maybe development, right? To be more developer friendly and to provide that approach, could we put this in front of developers in advance to get an opinion from the development community? Might that provide some goodwill toward the process? The second is, as long as there's a process, and it was mentioned, for like a variance to be issued, that's probably the most important thing. because
Absolutely.
That flexibility needs to be there. And so, and then the last question I have is this complete, or would we be proving something that would be additionally added to before it's finalized?
No, the intention with this is as thorough as I'm willing to go.
Okay.
I trimmed quite a bit out that I just felt like was in the spirit of trying to keep that relationship with developers interested in our lots. I trimmed a lot of the fat off, honestly.
It doesn't
went
look bad.
very
It looks
technical.
very standard, but, I'm not a professional, so.
I am also not a professional, which is why I relied on staff and I relied on a lot of outsiders to take a look at it and flag anything for me. What we would do is, if somebody was interested in a lot, is we would say, make sure you're okay with these first before you submit an offer to purchase. There's always ability to negotiate, but we want to let you know up front, this is something RDA is looking at before you purchase. So that's the intention with it.
So to answer your, I'm sorry.
No, just wanted to, you go ahead.
I thought maybe you had a question. But to answer your question, I'm fine with once a year reviewing it. Or, I mean, if there's no changes, you can just come to us and say there's no changes.
Okay.
And then, as far as I'm concerned, and then you could also, if you want to make some changes, or if you're hearing things from developers, or we're hearing things from the developers that we would want to bring forward, that we just have that open communication and the ability to do that maybe once a year.
Absolutely.
If you have a real issue that you think you need to bring back to us, I'm okay with you bringing it back, but I also trust this is your job, and we don't want to micromanage what you're doing.
Okay.
That's just my opinion.
It was always my intent to bring it back at least once or every 2 years. Every document should always be looked at regularly.
So there are specific things in here like asphalt shingles and gypsum board and some of that. Is there enough wiggle room if there's some innovative new like, material?
That's another reason why we put in the staff discretion.
Got it.
We're also hoping to kind of implement some of our sustainability plan suggestions in here as well to offset some of that. Again, we left it as much of a guideline as we could, but still building in a little flexibility.
So are we talking this is more minimum standard? So if somebody wanted to put on something more than an asphalt shingle, which of course I'm not a
Absolutely.
builder, so I have no clue, that's fine.
As long as
It's just
they meet
can't-
building code.
Right, it just can't
Yep.
be less than the
Yes.
asphalt.
Yep, this is the base minimum, which is why we said the intent is to be the baseline standard. They can always go above and beyond and put in higher quality. I'm sure we would encourage that with our infill lots. This is just meant to say, we don't want you going any lower than this because we're trying to improve our housing stock within Oshkosh.
Is that laid out somewhere other than the intention? Like,
No, that's why I put the intention document in there. The other requirements that we looked over from other municipalities and programs didn't have an intention document, and I am a big advocate of make it as clear as you can, right from the start. So if they look at this and they say, basement's a no-go for me, then I don't want them to wait until they get 20 pages in to find it.
yeah, no, for sure. And then my other question, so on the intentions, we have garage as the second bullet point. Matching the surrounding properties, are we using that to like get the matching the surrounding properties idea out there?
Yes.
So would we need to sort of broaden that instead of it just making it for garages? Does that make sense?
Oh, just the house design and everything?
Yes.
Okay.
That's actually kind of built into our code already
Okay.
with certain things, because I asked staff what they would suggest. We played with the idea of if the average homes within a block are all one story, do we want to put something that they need to match stories? It's already built in our code, and they showed me where it was. So I feel confident that we have enough in there that every time we reference, you still have to match city code, we've got that backup.
Got it, okay.
If our zoning code does go through a rewrite in the next year or two, which I will be gently suggesting to council coming soon, we might have to relook at this document, but for now, as robust as our zoning code is, this is plenty.
I guess I was just wondering, would it make more sense to sort of flip that bullet point around and just have something about matching surrounding, and then parentheses, garage, porch?
I could put something in these housing specifications are intended to guide properties to match surrounding properties, and then include the following attributes, so we'll just move that up.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep, I gotcha.
Regarding the garages, I am curious why it's such a big deal to have the detached with detached, especially if there's not an alley with it. I can understand if there's an alley and you want the garages all in the alley, but if there's not an alley, I mean, now people would much prefer to have the garage attached to the house, have a bigger backyard, less driveway.
I don't have a personal preference. I've just followed what the housing book recommended, which was try to match the flow of the neighborhood.
And that was one of the things I saw in the housing book too, that I questioned, was like, why is that such a big issue, especially?
That is definitely one of the things that if it just doesn't make sense, we could have the flexibility to say, we're willing to work with you on this.
And so that, I'm okay with all of this as long as it's flexible. You know, I think that's the biggest thing, is to allow for flexibility, even for the basement, because just the added cost of putting the basements in doesn't make the house affordable, especially when you're trying to get infill lots, you know, it's just makes it extra hard. So.
I like a couple parts. First, the intention part, just clearly stating our actual intentions to prospective builders, buyers,
Right off the bat.
right off the bat. It's plain spoken, right? It's easy to understand what we're hoping for. It's not a concern, but when we start listing things very specifically in code type things, and we're running into this in other areas, when we don't just reference the original code, then we have to update it a lot, right? So that, I didn't see too many of those types of things, but
I can take a closer look and see if it
do you know what I'm trying to get towards?
Yep.
That, like, because if we just say one thing and then code just updates it, well, now we have to update a document, where if we're just continuously referencing a specific code.
And the code changes, we're still good.
Correct.
Yep, I can keep an eye out for that.
Just to keep the workload as low as possible and keeping it's automatically up to date if we do that. But I didn't see too many in there. In terms of the stuff that's here, this is pretty basic, pretty standard building practices. I didn't see anything that would be prohibitive to building any sort of housing project in this community. So, yeah, no, I'm happy for it, or happy of it, and appreciate the work on it.
I will say I have to really put a shout out to multiple staff members that looked through this document, helped me pare it down, helped me make it a realistic document that could be really used within the community. I think every planner took a look at it, every inspector took a look at it. Hannah and I read through it multiple times, making sure that it flowed well. So a huge thank you to my staff for that support.
How many developers looked at it?
3. I asked 3 to take a look at it. I heard back from 2. Developers/builders.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Ones who have done infill development or would consider
One
infill?
has, the other 2 did not, but they've built homes in our community.
Okay.
The
Yeah.
num-
No, I was just gonna, don't need names, but just want to make sure that they.
I would not feel
Yeah.
comfortable saying names.
Yeah, no, I don't want, but just want to make sure that
Yep.
those who we are used to working with
Yep.
Have seen it. Okay.
The numbering system, is that in correlation to the code?
Nope.
Okay.
That is just in correlation to this document.
Got it.
I was going to change it and then I just gave up. So I left it as is.
And again, I don't know the code or how it's laid out, but would it be helpful in each section to reference what code would be?
Always like a little
involved?
intro and say, hey, don't forget this. If we're referencing code, make sure they know where it is. Yeah, we could do that.
Can I ask a real dumb question?
There's no such thing.
Why is this necessary?
If I'm blunt, it's because what we've heard from members of the community is that some of the homes that are being built in our infill lots are not being looked at by people that want homes in our community because they're just not meeting the standards that they were hoping for.
And there are examples of that. Are there examples of that's not, that there's homes that don't sell, or there's homes that are economically depressed because that doesn't meet the intent of the neighborhood?
I could say that I could probably direct you to a couple that don't meet the aesthetics of the neighborhood, but I don't know if I could do the economics without doing a deeper dive into it.
Okay. I just more or less support more full flexibility. And I mean, I understand. It seems from the standpoint of very basic, like would anything even be permittable at anything less than base standards, I guess is the question. So why would another layer or step be necessary? And if we're looking at really being, development friendly, that flexibility seems to be important. So I'm struggling with this a little bit. At first I was very supportive of it, but in looking at removing red tape and layers, I think maybe I'm looking at it a little bit differently.
Sorry.
Nope, go ahead, Nick.
I was gonna, it's not to rebut that, but because I know where you're going, right? I think I sense where you're going. Is it another layer, or is it trying to make it as easy to understand as possible?
We have codes, we have standards that exist, right?
And I don't disagree.
So,
And some of these could even be not builders, but somebody who's wanting to purchase a lot to build on. So residents or hopeful soon-to-be residents that don't speak builder terms, that could be even in the beginning stages of something, and that this could be just helpful. It doesn't prohibit anything. It doesn't it really doesn't prohibit much. I shouldn't say. It does prohibit some things.
Yep.
Prohibits doing things
It is another approval process, right?
We would just put another staff member that would be looking at when they're submitting their original plans. Same as when they're submitting an offer to purchase, whenever we're looking to make sure that it's meeting setbacks, that it's going to work within that area, we would just be double checking.
But in addition to meeting codes and additional standards, then this is an additional process of review.
Absolutely.
I can add something that would be helpful. So before offer purchases even get here, it's something that staff looks at internally to even make sure. So there's been a couple that haven't reached the board yet, that this would have been really helpful for maybe a homeowner or someone who wanted to build on a lot who might not really understand, city codes like developers do. I think this would be really helpful for staff and potentially some buyers to understand, like, this is what we want to see. We might get someone who just wants to build something really small, really cheap, and doesn't really care about the aesthetic, and I think that would kind of deter a lot of that before it would, even get to you,
And
if
we
that
have
makes
had a
sense.
few of those.
And again, I don't know if
There's
they've
no other
reached
approval
them.
process to address it. The planning commission, there's no other authority that reviews, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Mhm.
Not what we're asking for here. And one of the things that was the biggest concern was the basements and the garages and the aesthetics meeting the neighborhood. We don't have a way to request that of people interested in the lots the way that it was set up before. That's why we did the housing study, that's why we did the housing book, to make sure that we're doing what we can to get the best and safest homes on those lots, which was that intention.
So like using the Washington Ave site as an example, making sure that habitat or
Meets these standards.
these, which I would hope they would, especially if you said you spoke with, or they, NeighborWorks up in Green Bay.
NeighborWorks, yep.
Habitat are using very similar type guidelines. I know what you're saying too, because sometimes we hear that it's not always easy to build in the city of Oshkosh.
That is the concern, is
Yeah.
trying to make sure that we're still finding that balance between making things safe and really just safe for residents. And if,
I don't understand that though, because codes are set to make things safe for residents, aren't they?
Right.
I mean, this is an
They are.
additional layer.
Mhm.
We have codes for a reason, and this seems like an additional thing above and beyond our codes, and I don't agree with adding another step.
It kind of
to a
reminds
process
me,
that already exists for the purpose of keeping our community safe, keeping residents safe, and providing appropriate guidelines for base standards.
Sergeant Rupp, it kind of reminds me of our HOA codes where I live. You have 1,800 square feet, 2-car garage, facing, it's kind of like we're putting HOA guidelines in everything that the RDA sells.
Yeah, so if you have a private lot next to a RDA lot, they can build something.
They can do what they want.
They can do what they want on the private lot, but on the RDA lot, there's going to be a higher standard, is that?
yep, that was the intention with the housing book, is we wanted to have a higher standard. And for the safer stuff, what I meant more was the ability to have a basement with it. We want residents to have that access with the severe weather that we experience within our community. That was the safe aspect. The more of it is just making sure that it matches the aesthetics of the neighborhood, because the study in the housing book was showing that some of our infill lots were not.
And that has been criticism and comments that this board has made to developers that have come to it, looking to purchase lots, try to develop on them. Those have been questions and comments and concerns over the years that this body has asked or had those questions. So this is kind of a byproduct of all that feedback, internally and externally, a little bit. I don't see it as additional red tape. I do see it as an internal review, and it's a guideline, and it is a base. It is a very minimum building code guideline. It is not.
Is there discussion in changing the code? I mean, because it would seem like that would be the basic standard to make things,
Not
more,
in this
I guess,
context.
standardized, right?
When I meant changing the zoning code, and it is meant to make housing a little bit easier within the community, it wouldn't impact the stuff that's listed in this document. it would change, maybe we'd look at the landscaping, the lighting, stuff that was in this originally that I took out. And I said, we don't care about lighting or landscaping necessarily with these types of lots. We're more worried about the items that we left in, so.
Okay, thank you.
Let me ask a process question, maybe it'll help, hopefully it won't hurt. If somebody's coming, somebody wants to potentially purchase an RDA-owned lot to build a home on, process-wise, to come to us, to go through you and then to come to us for consideration of that, how deep into the building plan development process do they have to be, if you can remind me, before you would be advancing something to us to consider for that offer to purchase?
Kind of depends on the circumstance. Typically, if it's a developer that would have done it before, we would just bring them to you. We wouldn't have really done that much with it. In the case of the item tonight, we did do a little bit deeper digging with it because as you see in the agenda, it's already kind of a prefabricated home that's coming. And we wanted to make sure that the lot that they're interested in, it would work on with the setbacks. Otherwise, why go through all the steps of bringing it to you? So we did have a more thorough staff review with that one.
And I guess that's kind of where I'm going to go down that path a little bit. Somebody comes to us and wants to purchase something and then we say, okay, maybe blindly, maybe hopefully informed. And then also they get into the building, the code the building plan review, and which is all internal, and it's not what they wanted to do. That's not a problem. We've potentially sold a lot
Okay.
that they can't do what they want, and it doesn't meet what our intentions are, but we haven't put it on paper to say what our intentions were of these properties.
I get where you're going. We do like a precursory where we ask them, are you looking to do a single family home? Are you looking to do a duplex? Give us a rough idea of where you're hoping to put it. Let's make sure that it still works within the zoning requirements that we have. And as long as they kind of meet that base standard, then we're willing to take it here. In terms of actually putting together the full building plans, no, we're not reviewing those typically before we take them to RDA.
We also have the option to make it an option.
Yep.
To make another step and say, that pencil drawing is great, but we'd like to see that developed a little bit more. So that we
Absolutely.
have something to approve.
That's the benefit of this being city-owned lots versus a private lot. We have the ability to put those things on it. If our goal is to improve the housing stock within the community, this is a good step in that direction.
I think by adding the code numbers to this so that people can refer to those codes is a really good suggestion.
Absolutely.
And it kind of shows that you're not asking for anything more than the city is already asking.
Call the question.
Question's been called. No more debate. If you'll take the roll on 2506.
Okay. Bill Corelli,
Aye.
Lasky,
Nay.
Shireman,
Aye.
Hutchinson,
Aye.
Panic,
Aye.
Belcher,
Aye.
Mugarauer.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Resolution 2507, approve offer to purchase parcel number 080611000. This is formerly 42 Mill Street for Keene Capital Management LLC in the amount of $10,500.
Move approval?
Second.
Discussion.
Okay. We do have our,
A representative.
yes, I was going to say, sorry, our representative. The individual that we were speaking to has actually been communicating the most with Hannah. So if Hannah's most comfortable with it, I'm going to let her take the lead.
Sure. So just a little background about the lot. I know it's in the memo. So this lot has been vacant for about 20 years or so. RDA purchased it, I want to say in 2023. So the gentleman I spoke with originally came to me discussing a different property, and this is typically what'll happen when someone wants to develop on a lot. They might have a particular lot in mind, or they might have an idea and say, where can we kind of fit this lot? So he did speak with planning staff because it is a home that was, I guess, saved from a different area. I want to say it was the Fond du Lac area. They were doing some road work there. And so they were given the option to remove the home or, have the home be demolished. So, and this is something that this company has done. So, so this is a previous project, so it's not that they just like pick it up and then set it somewhere. They do remodel it and make it fit the neighborhood. So just some more photos of some remodel work. So with him talking with planning staff, they kind of worked out a different lot that would work better for the type of home that they have. It met code according to planning staff. There's just one other, do I have another photo? I do not. There's just one additional window that they would need to add in order to meet the front facade, whatever.
Design standards that we have
there
within
we
our
go.
code.
And then they were willing to do it, so they've been really easy to work with. And this is,
That they do renting vouchers.
oh yeah, so another thing that I thought was kind of important to bring up. So because this is something that they have done before and they are able to kind of remodel and have a property available below market rate, they are able to rent it below market rate, and they do accept rental vouchers. So I think especially with the housing climate that we have, that could be a good opportunity, especially for a lot that has been vacant for so long. So, and again, if there's questions, I do have a rep from the company.
I have to ask, where's the house now?
It is in the Fond du Lac.
But you moved it.
It's on like big beams right now.
Okay.
So basically, they cut it off at the foundation,
Okay.
and then it
Would you
goes.
like-
Well, I'm just gonna have you come up to the
Oh, yeah.
microphones. Yeah,
Yeah,
go ahead
of
at the
course.
head of the table.
Introduce yourself too.
Yeah, sorry. I'll
So-
cut you off.
I'm Jackson Keene. Darren is my father, and who is, I believe she's been talking to.
Yes.
And so this house, if you want to go to the pictures that you had before, this is actually a very recent one. I was just there yesterday, actually. This was in the last year. We moved it, I want to say it was from Larson area to kind of out by Ripon. And I got to kind of see that one from start to finish, and it was just a really cool process to be a part of. Basically, they cut the house off at the foundation, and they use a crane with kind of big, I don't want to say ratchet straps, but straps that go underneath and lift it up, and then it goes onto beams on a trailer, and they transport it by trailer. It's a whole process. You got to get different like law enforcement involved to kind of escort through traffic, and we did it at night actually, so there'd be less traffic on the road. And got it to the place, got it put down, the foundation was put in, and yeah, and then we can start remodeling and adding electric, plumbing, all of that, and get to the final product.
It was always really hard as a bank to take a mortgage on these because
Yeah.
they weren't on the property anymore. So we had to figure out how to finance a move.
Right.
It's really tough.
Right.
Turns into a mobile home all of a sudden.
Just out of curiosity, what happens to the old property where the house used to be?
So this one, for example, they wanted to get rid of the house to build a new house there. So a lot of times that's it, but I think this one was, they were doing road construction and were either told they need to demolish it or move it.
So this one was a very unique circumstance where we took it further through the review process before we brought it to RDA. We wanted to make sure, since they really didn't have as much flexibility, a little bit, but not as much as a new structure, to change it and adjust the plans as needed to fit within our setbacks and other zoning requirements, which is why Hannah worked with our planning staff and we got them to a different location that was a better fit.
Have you figured out the rents yet? What are you going to charge for rent?
I do not know that off the top of my head.
It should be a good number. Right?
Yeah, it would be a good number, for sure.
I'm a little surprised that it's going I guess perpendicular
Yeah,
to.
sideways.
Yeah, yeah, I'm a little surprised by that as opposed to, is that a setback issue? or
I believe it was a setback concern, which is why we had to turn.
It was something that the applicant had discussed with planning staff. So if this is approved for the offer to purchase, that is something they'll work with planning staff to make sure that they meet those setbacks. So sometimes projects, when they do come to RDA for an offer to purchase, later on, they might release that offer to purchase and the RDA lot might go back for sale. So that is something that happens, but the applicant seemed really willing to work with staff in order to make it happen.
What are the side yard setbacks? You know?
I do not know
6,
that.
8, or 10? I mean, I was-
I'm not super familiar with that,
Yeah, the
but
side yards there seem pretty tight together, so it seemed like you'd be able to fit it with only
I
68
would
feet. It seems like you would be able to fit it the way. Is it a preference for the developer to put it in this way?
I do not know.
The lot is 80 by 123.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's a
So-
little less.
That's plenty of
So
wide.
it's
Yeah.
only 68.
And the build is 24 by 68.
Yeah,
Okay.
so 68 should be able to fit the 80 direction, shouldn't it?
yeah. The planning manager, Kim, didn't see any issue with the setbacks once they had the discussion. And that was really my biggest concern is if planning staff is okay with it, then I'm comfortable bringing it to RDA.
We did also talk with your father, Darren, about the housing specs and the possibility of them getting passed and make sure that they understood we wanted the aesthetics of the neighborhood to be watched. One of the original applications that they put in had the garage being very far back compared to what the rest of the neighborhood was. So we worked with them and said we would prefer it to match more of the homes in the neighborhood, and they were willing to work with us and adjust that. So very, very pleased with the communication we've had with this company.
Yeah, for sure. I can definitely tell you that we're willing to work with a lot of the different specifications that you guys have, and we care about quality, care about aesthetic, and want to bring up the housing stake in the city of Oshkosh, like you guys were talking about.
And actually laying it out that way, when you look at the aerial view, aligns with
The way that the
blocks
road
worth of
splits.
houses, that they're just those long, narrow ones
Okay.
for them. So just aesthetically in that sense.
Are you interested in any other lots we have for sale?
I'm not sure.
Oh, come on.
I'm not the one writing the checks.
Talk to your dad. Talk to your dad.
Any more questions for the applicant? Any more questions for staff? Okay. Then I'll call the question. If you'll take the roll on 2507.
Bell Crowley.
Aye.
Lasky.
Aye.
Shireman.
Aye.
Hutchinson.
Aye.
Panic.
Aye.
Belcher.
Aye.
McGrower.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Look forward to seeing the
Thank you.
project kick off and
Yeah,
and
I'm
get
excited
started
for
on
it,
Thanks, Jeff.
I'll be interested to watch that house get physically.
for sure. It's a cool process.
Let us know.
I was gonna
We'll be
say,
standing on the
does
street.
anybody ever bring back the homes that get built on RDA lots? Do you guys ever
Sometimes
see
there
them?
are updates brought,
Okay.
but I
Yeah.
would be happy to bring more updates.
Yeah.
We'll
No,
get some
you'd
videos.
definitely be
of
happy
that.
to show pictures and videos.
We'll see.
We
We'll
also-
definitely bring something.
I know a member of Oshkosh Media is listening in as he's helping facilitate the recording of this, and our Oshkosh Media team really enjoys the use of the city drone. I'm just throwing that out.
Throwing
there.
that out there. Gentle encouragement.
All right, that's the last action item. Moving right to the executive director's report. Go right ahead.
Pretty straightforward. We have, Boatworks is still moving along very nicely. We've seen that they've opened up their lease applications because they're looking at pre-approvals. They're not quite there yet to have people move in, but they're starting to look at candidates for their properties, which is good. We're keeping an eye on what they're offering the rents at per our TID agreement that we have with them, so we're double checking that. Theta Cares, moving along very well, very excited, and I also saw that they had posted looking for staff for that location, so they're starting to look at hiring staff for there as well. Pioneer Marina, the island, they've submitted plans for a semi-permanent pergola. It's still in review right now. It looks good on the planning side. We're just working out some building code things that we want to touch base with them on. And then also working on their sand volleyball courts. So we're excited that they're getting some good movement out there.
Was there just a fire there recently?
Not that I'm
That's,
aware
I
of.
heard something on the scanner came across.
Today?
No.
Oh, okay.
A week and a half.
It was
ago.
at-
Oh, I
Go
haven't
up
no idea.
at
It was
the,
at the marina, so.
Oh, Marina, not, okay.
Okay. No, I didn't know. So. And then, of course, Mill on Main is going really well. We, I'm sure you guys remember, about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, there was such heavy rain that came through. They had a roof that wasn't fully installed when it was coming in. Unfortunately, it was just caught in that perfect flux where they had a lot of rain that ended up coming into their floors and then dripped along some of the floors between the structures. So we had an inspector catch it right away. We brought it to Mill on Main's attention, and they were able to remedy it within a day and continue progress. So we were very, very happy with the turnaround that they had concerning that. And I mean, if you haven't been down there, take a look. It's moving along very well. They are planning on completing by this fall and potentially working out some leases. I know they're looking for commercial leases for that commercial space already. So there's a lot of good stuff happening there.
Are the docks tied to development or are they public docks?
We're working that out right now. The idea was initially for them to be managed and maintained by Mill on Main. However, with the funding sources that we're looking at, they may have to be city-owned and then leased partially to them and the rest open to the public.
Thank you.
We're still working things out with the DNR. We'll know more in probably 6 months. That's going to be an extensive process.
So the docks won't be operational at the beginning of the leases?
Probably not. Not for phase one. I think when I spoke to them maybe a week ago, we were thinking when they were getting into phase 3. But we're starting the permitting process with the DNR because that's going to take at least a year to get that through.
Wasn't the original Mill on Main the part of the attraction for the first phase was the docks and the commercial space and potential restaurant and all of that?
The commercial space is struggling to get rented because they did want those docks.
Right, so.
We're working on it. It's
Yeah.
really, we're trying to move things with the DNR as quickly as we can, knowing that we don't have as much sway there as
I just
we do with
remember
everything else.
it was like years ago, like when it's first, and I was like, that would be really surprising if those docks get built and the commercial and at least, and like all.
That would be a perfect
Yeah.
situation, and I don't think we're going to land on
No,
that.
yeah.
But we're going to try our hardest to get them in as soon as we can.
Yeah.
I don't have an update on Mercury Marine at this time. We haven't had any real movement with that. Same with Merge. As for Sawyer Street, we've had the asbestos items removed. We're looking to demo. We're in the process of attempting to cover some graffiti. If anybody's seen it, it's quite large and in charge on those 2 buildings. It's going to take a little bit to get a contractor out there to get that covered. I'm really hoping we don't get it tagged again before we even get it demoed, but we'll see. DPW is planning on assisting us with that demo. We're waiting on getting some asbestos certifications because there is still some asbestos in the buildings. It was too difficult to remove it, and it was allowed to be demoed with the structure. But we need to have somebody with a specific certification on site during the demo, and we don't have a staff member with that at this time. So we're in the process of getting that. Washington School is moving along very well. We've gotten our bids for the right-of-way stormwater and grading work. I will be talking with council in about 2 weeks for housing next steps, so I'll have more of an update after that. But right now, everything's moving on track as good as it could be. And then, of course, Jefferson and the corridor project, they also had a little bit of a hiccup. However, it happened. There were some footings that ended up being placed in the right-of-way, 6 feet under the right-of-way, I should say. So it's not like there's a footing hanging out on the sidewalk. It is 6 feet below surface, but because it is 6 inches into the right-of-way, we have to get an encroachment agreement with them that we're negotiating right now. We're pretty close. I don't think we're gonna have any issues with it, so it should be signed within the next couple of weeks. But I think it's a good testament to, in particular, engineering, DPW staff that they flagged it. We worked with inspections, figured out what was actually going on, what was the problem, and then we worked to come to a really good resolution and kept the project moving forward, which was important. So very, very happy with that. But that's all I have. If anybody has any questions.
I have a question. On the Bulwarks property, you said about ensuring that the rents are within the TID agreement. Is that for the life of it, or just the opening rents, or how does that?
I don't want to say offhand. I'd have to go back and reread the agreement. I could not remember. I don't know if we can say for the life of the document
Right.
or if it's just for the, my guess is it would be during the increment years.
Okay.
Yeah, generally.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know if we have an authority to extend for the full thing.
Okay. That's it.
All right. There's nothing else. Next meeting will be September 17th. Same room, same time. And with that, we'll take a motion and a second to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.